Okay, so I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Heartland School Board at 7:05 on March 1st, the first Tuesday of March. So we'll start with any changes or additions to the agenda. The one, we will have an executive session tonight for a student matter. Is there anything else? Okay.
I think that's it.
So I'll take a motion to approve the February 1st, 2022 meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes.
So Sarah,
Second,
followed
Colleen.
by Colleen. Okay. Was there any discussion about the minutes? They looked good to me. So who typed these up? Lori?
Well, I think Beth and Lori kind of worked, but I think Beth did most of the work.
Beth, these are really awesome.
Yeah, you did a great job.
I can actually see why you didn't, like, you felt like you maybe couldn't participate. So let's not let that happen, and let's figure out how to make it work.
I just emailed the link to everybody for
Okay.
the current note document.
Okay.
You want to add anything?
There. I'm going to pull it up so that if you start talking, one of us can start filling in. Okay. So I think we'll move to vote on the February 1st meeting minutes. So, I have to do a roll call. Okay, here we go. Sarah, you're in the top corner.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Scott.
Aye.
Beth.
Hi.
See what she means? That's exactly the point.
No, I'm on a different like once I'm typing, I'm on a different screen, so I don't even see people. That's fine.
Oh, and Colleen.
aye.
And myself, aye. Okay, so we've approved the minutes 5-0, and there were no abstentions. We were all here, as I recall. We've had really awesome meeting attendance, by the way, guys. That's
It's true.
like, I can't remember a meeting that we weren't all here. Okay, so we have public participation or any announcements. Do we have? Yeah, I'm gonna go with no. Okay. Does anybody have any announcements that? This is Scott's official last meeting.
Yeah. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Scott. I wish we were in person. You are gonna have to come back and visit us. Maybe sometime when Craig cooks us dinner, you'll come join us.
Yeah, that's right. You,
Oh,
I think you're on mute, Scott.
you're on mute, Scott.
Yeah, I felt bad because I missed the community dinner just because I wasn't paying attention. But I,
It was
yeah,
good.
you know what?
It was
The Heartland is got lots of capable people to do this kind of stuff. So I don't feel bad about this. So go Heartland School District.
No, we're just gonna miss you personally.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss you guys too.
You have to come join us for dinner.
Yeah, we'll make sure of that.
And thank you for everyone for saying so many nice things in the last few weeks, and means a lot to me.
We mean it, so thank you. Okay, any other? No. Okay. We are getting through this agenda. Okay, so we're already on the principal's report, Christine.
Perfect. Because we have a guest tonight who's going to present, and I told her she would go on early. So Rosemary, let me share my screen first, okay? And then then I'll introduce you.
Send you.
I have it.
You.
Mr.
Okay.
Butt sent it to me.
Oh, okay. I was gonna
Yeah.
be like, I didn't send it to you.
No, I've
Should
got
I
it.
have
but
sent
let me- All right. Okay. This one. Okay. Share my screen. Takes me to the end. So give me a second here. All right, so can everybody see my screen?
Perfect.
All right, good. Okay, so I just a big shout out to Craig and his team for another very successful community dinner. Over 250 meals served, and we had a little bit of concern because we had 2 basketball games that night, but we situated outside the kitchen on the other side, and it worked out really well. And basketball families that were at the basketball games were really happy because they came out and got their dinner and ate it during basketball. So it worked out, and it was delicious, and we had a lot of fun, lots of laughter, which felt good. And the community seems very appreciative.
Mhm.
So, yeah, we'll continue with these. Hopefully next year we'll be back inside and we can pair them with other events at the school. All right, so IDL update. So Tina is not coming tonight. Instead, we are having a student come tonight to present her Shark Tank project. And I know Mr. Butts is here. I don't know if he wants to, I'll put him on the spot. Mr. Butts, do you want to do a brief overview of the Shark Tank?
Sure, I can go ahead and jump in. So ideally, this really is a great way of using an IDL where this wasn't the original direction we were going, but it changed to that based upon the students' input and what they were doing with the project. It originally started out as a comic book theme where they were just going to do a small pitch and leave it at that. And I felt it wasn't enough, and a lot of the students wanted to actually make a product. So we adjusted things, tweaked it, and turned it into a Shark Tank. So it was amazing because kids were able to then delve into ideas and thoughts that were beyond just the comic book theme and be able to do something that was unique and that was personalized to themselves. So we ended up getting a better result by allowing the students to have free choice in this. So that's kind of the background on it and why we're at now with Shark Tank. So
thanks, Michael.
Mhm.
Thanks for and Michael was the lead on the comic book theme. And the kids did lots of projects. And I think just being able to see some of them, I didn't get to see all of them, but I got to see a fair number. Watching the kids just present, which is a really important skill. Some of them were terrified. Some of them worked in teams. I did get to see Rosemary's. I think she was the first one I saw. And I was just a little bit moved by her presentation. So I invited her tonight to share it with you all. So I'm going to see if I linked it correctly. Share. Okay, do you see?
Yes.
Okay, let me put it in slideshow if I can, Rosemary.
Okay.
Okay, so this is Rosemary Delbrush. She's an 8th grader at Heartland. And this was her business plan. So Rosemary, I'm going to be quiet and let you present.
Okay. Well, next slide, please. This is my business plan for Always How, and
Oh, I have to request access.
I'll give you access if I can figure
Okay.
out how to do this. I'm not tech savvy. I try, but I'm not.
Just tell me when you've done it, Rosemary, and I'll check my email.
Okay.
I think it says I'll get an email. Let's see.
Just give me a second.
It's okay.
The Google Meet makes everything on the computer very, very slow. It said I shared it, so you should get an email at soon.
All right.
I don't know if you'll be
Share
able
it.
to use the video. That's in
Here
this
it comes. Okay, I'm going to share as soon as it loads. All right, are you ready? I'm going to share this tab instead, Rosemary, so you
Okay.
can see it.
It would probably work best if everyone just muted because it's a video and sound over Google Meet, except for Miss Bourne because of the noise.
Okay, can you see it?
Yes.
All right, I'll hit play.
1, 2.
Always how is part of a motto at a camp I go to. The whole motto is never can't, always how. I chose it as my company name because I think that it should never have to be you can't wear that even though you want to. I think it should always be how can you wear what makes you feel happy and like you. Always How is a clothing line, right now just shirts, that is inclusive to everyone. I know people who have had experiences with clothes shopping. My sister Matilda loves NASA. The problem though is that most stores don't have NASA shirts for just girls. Matilda will still wear a NASA shirt even if it is in the boys section, but the cut is not the same. Boys and girls cuts are different, so sometimes the shirt doesn't quite fit right. This is also true for non-binary people. Say that you were non-binary and you wanted to wear a girl's shirt, but you had a boy's body. The cut might not fit you right, and so it might feel uncomfortable to wear that shirt. And the same is true if you are non-binary and you want to wear a boy's shirt, but you have a girl's body. It should just be that there are shirts that everyone can wear, like shirts in a boy's cut that are normally in the girls section, and shirts in a girls cut that are normal in the boys. I have also had experience with clothes being challenging because when I was 10, I was diagnosed with osteomyelitis, which we later figured out that I actually had chromo, also known as chronic recurrent multifocal osteomyelitis, which is a condition where my immune system eats my bones and destroys them. And so I needed to have a biopsy and a PICC line. A PICC line is this really long IV that goes into your arm and stays in there for a couple months. And that meant I couldn't really lift my arm. And so it made it very hard to put on shirts and take off shirts. And so my grandma, my mom, and I came up with this shirt design that has a zipper down the side and Velcro on the sleeve so that I could unvelcro the sleeve and unzip the shirt and take it off really easily. And it also made it really easy for anyone who needed to get to the PICC line quickly to get to it. But we'd never had that situation that somebody needed to get to the PICC line very fast, which was lucky.
Okay, let me go back to your presentation. Rosemary?
I'm here.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
I'm going to stop sharing this screen, okay?
Okay.
Sorry, I don't see you. So, Rosemary, are you open to taking a couple of questions from the school board
Yes, I am.
about your project? If anybody has any questions, Rosemary handled quite a few on the day she presented to her peers and some adults. So if anyone has any
Don't throw math questions at me.
I'll ask a question. I have a little practice because I came in one of the days and saw some of the Shark Tank projects, and it was so much fun. I wish I'd seen yours.
My mom saw mine, so.
This is amazing, Rosemary. I'm so impressed. This is such a cool idea. And I'm just wondering, how would you produce the clothes? Where would they be produced?
So it would be a like home business. So I would need like a sewing machine and a color printer, maybe even something to do some picture scanning so that I can scan it and print it onto shirts easier, because what we are doing right now currently is peeling off the shirt. So we have to figure out another way for that. But I was hoping to do start with 100 shirts a week, me making them, which would be a lot along with school. But if I didn't have school, that's what I would do. If thinking of school logically, I'd say about maybe 10, 15 shirts a week, and I'd make them at home, and I would buy shirts in bulk, and then I could design them to fit other people's needs. Like I could take out seams and resew them and that kind of stuff. So
cool. It's a great idea.
Yeah. Someone raised their hand. Yeah, I can take it.
Great. Wonderful job, Rosemary. I love it.
Thank you.
And question, because Mr. Butts had mentioned that it started as a comic book project.
Yes.
So how was the comic book connection? How did that work?
There was none. So my
You just ignored his rules and just went for it?
I didn't act. Okay. I was making a superhero in art class, which is where we were supposed to design it from, but I didn't. A lot of my like appointments and stuff actually coincided with my art classes and that kind of stuff, so I was not done with my superhero yet, and I knew my superhero sort of, so like I knew the gist of it, but I didn't want to do that. I was having a hard time figuring out what to do that could coincide with my superhero, so I thought, why don't I just make a whole new superhero, or like one that fights for equality? But then it kind of strayed away from that superhero because I was like, I can do that, but then I just drew that logo and decided I wanted to do that instead. And Mr. Butts was kind of like, yeah, just go for it. So I just went for it. And yeah, I kind of disobeyed him. Sorry, Mr. Butts. But
That sounds like a great decision. Well, no, that sounds like you taking control of your learning, which is exactly what
Yeah.
you want to do with these things. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Great.
All right. Well, Rosemary, thank you for coming and presenting
no problem.
your project tonight. We were very impressed with it. And thank you, Mr.
you.
Butts, for coming to support Rosemary.
You did a great job, Rosemary.
Thank you.
Have a good night, everyone.
All right. Thanks,
Thanks, Rosemary.
Michael. All right. I don't know that I'm sharing the right tab. Am I back to my presentation? Yeah.
I think you are.
Okay. So you, all right. Okay. I'm on hiring updates. That's what you see. A couple of just updates in the hiring realm. We did manage to score a support staff member named Kayla Klein. She started today, and she's just getting to know the kids and the schedule and the staff, and the special ed case managers will place her accordingly. So we feel pretty fortunate about that. I did hire Dan Talbot. He's a local, well, he used to be a local Heartland resident, and he's moving back. And he should be starting this week, and Chad's baby should be born this week. So hopefully it'll all line up. We posted the second grade position because it was a late hire, and that's what we have to do. And so we're currently interviewing for that position. And if we get good news tonight, we'll post the third grade position tonight or tomorrow morning after the budget passes. So those are the hiring updates for this month. COVID update, certainly cases are on the decline in our schools, which feels great. It feels all of a sudden, which is a little bit strange, but we're happy about it. As you probably have seen or heard or gotten the surveys, we're surveying parents, staff, and staff to collect data on how people feel about masking or unmasking, and a plan for doing that. We had surveyed the staff, but our survey wasn't specific enough, so we're sending out a new survey for them to fill out that I think mirrors the parent survey. Some of you were at the board meeting this month, I think last week, and there was a decision that be an additional SU board meeting this month on March 21st to discuss this issue and to allow the public to come and share their thoughts and opinions on how and when we unmask our kids and our staff. And the administrative team is kind of rolling out. We want to be strategic and thoughtful and smart about our plan to open things up, including the unmasking. And so we're working on a plan for that. I think one of those I can share. We've talked about having an optional in-person or remote parent-teacher conference in about a month from now. So we're feeling that might be a good step in the right direction. Any questions or comments about COVID? We're still having cases here and there, but they're not anywhere as near as many as we were having just a month ago. All right. Last month you asked, oh, was there a question? Yep.
Colleen,
Go ahead, Colleen.
have the teachers been talking some about, I mean, you just kind of said that, but you're talking about strategies for opening up. What kinds of things have come up in conversation, I guess, is what I was wondering.
We've talked about a little bit of mixing of the pods, mixing for, we're actually, Heartland's going to have a drama production this spring, which we're very happy about. It's later in the season. We were kind of waiting to see, and allowing kids from other schools that don't have a drama program to join. We've talked about a slow, maybe opening of the cafeteria just for the grade level, which we started at the beginning of the year in Heartland, and it's different in every school, Colleen, just based on space
Yeah.
and resources. But having at least 8th graders be able to have lunch together in the, we call it the dining hall, in the next few weeks. Those are some of the things we've talked about. Maybe when we do unmask, do we do it all at once? Do we do an hour at the end of the day? Do we distance kids when we're doing it just to see how it goes? So those are the kinds of things we're talking about and thinking about. One other one that comes to mind is an 8th grade trip. So we haven't fundraised, but we're going to try to raise some money quickly and at least let our kids go on an end of the year trip, day trip somewhere, because they deserve it. So things like that. Does that help?
Yeah, thank
Okay,
you.
good.
It does.
We do want to get back to normal, but we're being cautious, and people, some people are more comfortable than other people
Right.
around the issue.
That's just going to
yeah.
be true.
Yeah. So,
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. The winter data, I did collect a little bit. We just finished up Exact Path, so I haven't had a ton of time to dive in and examine it, but I can certainly present it tonight. And it will be quick. I tried to get it all kind of in a way that makes sense for you to see, but it's got to load. All right, can you see it? I always get this note that says share this tab instead. I think I have to hit that. Am I good?
Got it now.
Okay. All right. So just thought that I would share the attendance data because I think it's important, and it certainly impacts our assessment scores and how kids are doing and the number of kids that have taken some of the assessments. So these are the rates for the year. Certainly we had a spike in December and January, hoping February it'll start to come down, but don't have that data run yet. Track my progress data. I took the percent proficient and gave it to you by whole school and individual grade level from the fall to the winter. So the reason there's only one kindergarten line for winter is we didn't put them through it in the fall, which is a decision that we make. We think that's best practice for our youngest learners. So overall in ELA, the school has made progress. If there's not an increase, that's still progress because the test gets harder as the kids get older. The benchmarks increase. So there are a couple grade levels that went down, and so that's something to think about and look into and dive into with our interventionists and our MTSS teams. So that's ELA. Any questions, specific questions I can try to answer? Okay. I always think it's important to look at free and reduced versus non-free and reduced, and we continue to see a pattern where our non-free and reduced students score better than our free and reduced kids, and that's the achievement gap that we're trying to close. Didn't really make much progress from the fall to the winter, but something we're always thinking about. And males versus females. So in ELA, our females outscore our males by a considerable amount. And this is the whole school broken down by grade level math data. Again, we've made progress as a whole school, and most classes increased their scores. A couple didn't. And again, some of that was based on attendance and COVID and just, different factors. All right. And again, free and reduced and non-free and reduced. Similar trends as we saw in ELA. And then males versus females. So the females are scoring a little higher, but not as significantly as in ELA.
Is that is that a developmental thing? Because girls are, I just think that part of ELA is making arguments and so it makes me wonder if that's a girls just developing and having more social drive that scores. I don't know.
I mean, I would say and this is just from my own experience in the classroom, it's very typical to notice that girls are wired in a way that suits traditional schooling more so than males. So they seem to be able to attend more. Does that make sense? And I think that attributes to it. Yeah. Yep. All right. So that's TMP. The exact path data just came in. I was looking at it with Brittany just yesterday. And as you know, exact path is a little bit, well, we're looking into it. I'll say that to see if it's an effective tool for us. The curriculum assessment, instruction and assessment team came in and interviewed students, and staff had a chance to weigh in on how it's going. They will report out their findings, I believe, at that next SU board meeting. But I will say the scores in exact path don't look as good as TMP. This is math, and as you can see, as a whole school, the scores, the percent proficient decreased, and that was true in quite a few of the grade levels. In the older middle level, they did go up. I talked to Brittany about this and kind of made some hypothesis on why that might be. Some of what we came up with were the kids are really not buying into exact path. They really have a negative feel about it, so they're not trying very hard on the assessments. Another potential indicator or contributor is that the diagnostic test is taking kids way too long, a lot longer than it should, and so kids just, it's too long and they don't attend all the way through. And we had a lot of absences, so the data is a bit skewed because some kids didn't take it in the fall and some kids didn't take it in the winter, and they're not the same kids, so it does skew your data a bit. So the math was, I think, the worst. This was free and reduced versus non-free and reduced. And this is reading. We did a little bit better in reading on exact path. Whole school wide, we increased a bit. And the same is true in, sorry, I'm jumping ahead. This is free and reduced versus non-free and reduced. And then in language arts, a slight increase in the whole school data as well. So that is the current, those are the current percentages for Track My Progress, Exact Path, and attendance. So, and those I shared with you already. Questions, comments?
I think from what I've heard of kids that I've talked to, it seems like your theory of kids not trying very hard in the winter makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I heard a lot of car conversations of, oh, I just clicked right through.
Yeah, and you can tell, sorry, I stopped sharing, I don't know why. One teacher told me, because I was asking a couple questions, that there were kids that finished the whole assessment in, under 2 minutes. So clearly they're not trying at all. And we can make them go back and do it, but, and we do in some cases. And one student said, oh, I didn't know you looked at the scores. So that teacher is making a plan to set goals based on the data with all her students for the next round, which is good. And I will say the interventionists are doing data deep dives with their teams. They're looking at the grade level data and they're setting a goal, and then they come back and then they work on that goal, and then they come back and revisit to see how they've done. So we are getting in the habit of consciously looking at data regularly and getting staff to do that. So that's a good thing that's come out of it, I think. And you'll hear more about Exact Path. I don't know if other schools are having the same feelings about it. So that'll be interesting to hear.
So I'm going to go in order because we have a lot. So it's Sarah, Scott, and then Colleen.
Okay.
Go, Sarah.
So are they done with Exact Path now? Like they won't have to do Exact Path the rest of the year?
So that is undecided, Sarah, I think, and Angie can confirm. I know it's in the comprehensive assessment plan that we have for the year, but so is TMP for the spring. And what we were thinking was, because we did pilot Exact Path. I mean, it was piloted and selected. So it's kind of like, do you just throw it away, early, or do you continue with it and kids get used to it? But if it's not the right tool, we have to determine that. And I think that decision will drive whether they take the spring assessment. And Angie, please help me, because I'm just guessing on this one.
Yeah, so the Exact Path Adoption Committee, the Diagnostic Software Adoption Committee met this afternoon.
Okay.
And the committee came up with a recommendation for the administrative team to consider. And that's all I think I should share right now. Just to clarify, we saw many commonalities in children's experience and teachers' experience across the supervisory union.
Well, thanks for that. I wasn't sure if it was just a Heartland thing. You never know. Well, we'll look forward to hearing some of the results next. I think it's next month you're presenting, Angie.
Yes.
Okay.
I know I've been a bit of a gadfly on this, but I did want to say that I appreciated, and the kids really appreciated that you all went to them and asked for their opinions. And my kid wrote an essay to explain why she didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
She and her friends made a PowerPoint. And you know what? I mean, that was kind of a great experience. And she felt very empowered. And I think they all felt very empowered to sort of share how they were feeling about it. So you know how I feel, but I just wanted to say that I really appreciate that you empowered them to express their feelings about it.
And we did get feedback, I will say, the next day after Angie, Patty, and Brittany came and did the interviews, and they spent a day at Heartland, a good portion of a day interviewing kids. We got a very nice email that said that the Heartland kids were so respectful and articulate, and they really, appreciated spending time with them and the feedback that they got. So that was nice to hear. So passing that along.
Scott, I think you're up.
Okay. Yeah, my comment is actually going to take us a little sideways, and I'll go as quickly as I can, but it has to do with the FRL. And that jogged my memory. And then a week ago, we had a specific question about that at our annual district information meeting from a resident, first name Chuck. And I wish that I was better at thinking on my feet. So I wish that I had spoke up then, but maybe Chuck will watch this video. And I thought maybe we could, he had some good questions, but I think that there was a little confusion about the school's role there. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but just to clarify, we're trying to identify, it's really a problem and a challenge for us. I mean, to identify the students, and we never think that we really get all the students identified, is my experience. And it's bad for, it's probably bad for the individual students, but it's also a bummer for the school not to have the ratios or the correct numbers as clear as possible for that enables those titles monies that come along with identifying those numbers. So I don't know, the way I remember that comment from a week ago was that maybe the school district ought to be working with the town to figure out why there was this population in our community, or excuse me, perhaps why that number was increasing in our community. Is that a fair estimate of what was said a week ago? And I just think that I'm not sure that's really our role. More the school district's role is really providing for that population, and by law providing for that population. I don't know if anybody else has anything to say, but I said it was sideways, and so.
I think from my standpoint, because Christine and I were both on committees for like, I think it was like 2 years. I mean, it was an extended period of time that we were meeting on committees. But then I think the funding ran out, maybe from Mount Scottney Health, like we hit the timeline, and then things, like we got things in and done by the timeline, but then we never came back together and summarized what we did. And so when Chuck asked that question, I was kind of like, okay, I know we did this, but like there was no complete package at the end of this is what we accomplished out of those 2 years.
And it really we didn't really answer his question, Nikki, either in our committees, like, or at least in my committee, we weren't looking at why the population of free and reduced is increasing in Heartland. I mean, I don't know if your committee, I mean, I think your committee addressed zoning or not into that realm.
But I think it's a much larger question in the sense of, I don't think, I mean, it's not just us, you know, like it's not just our free and reduced numbers are going up and we need to do something about it. It's a much larger community than Heartland. So I don't think that we necessarily are, you know, like, it just seems like it's a huge issue overall. Food insecurity, you know, the wealth gap is increasing, like it's all of it. And then it's just like, you know, microscopic down to all of it, and it's happening in Heartland. And so I don't think of it as an anomaly or anything like that. I think it's just that it's happening here, just like so many other places in the country, and that we can do our best to support it.
Because I'm so focused on Heartland that I often forget to look.
Yeah, I think that's a great comment, Beth. I'm glad you spoke up, because I was thinking of your overlap here too with the universal meals conversation. And so one thing that I wished had been said was the challenge over the years of really surfacing that number in our school district, and just that it's just been you know, for all these years, from my perspective, school leaders don't feel like they're really getting a good idea, and it's a challenge to get these silly papers returned. And that is, I mean,
then it's a statewide issue.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not, and a nationwide issue. Like, this is not, it's the same darn form used everywhere.
But just to finish my thought,
So,
I'm getting out over my skis a little bit, but you know, there's other ways to find very similar data, or data that could help the school district as a whole know what kind of resources we needed to point in which direction. And, you know, data that didn't require parents filling out stuff that seemed kind of private and passing it on to school leaders. You know, there's other ways to figure that out. And that's one thing that goes along with the universal meals application process, would be figuring out another way to do that.
And I know New Hampshire is actually working on that right now, of like to eliminate the form, and how can they eliminate the form. So it's worth looking across the river to see what they're up to. But I know it's at the state level of like Hunger Free Vermont and Vermont Feed, and all those folks are definitely looking at it. It's an awareness. Yeah. But it's hard still.
So Beth, do you have a sense on the Vermont side? I mean, I know you're probably not quite as in touch, but what do you know about the Vermont side around universal lunch or new ways to fill out the FRL application?
Yeah, there's not a new way in the sense of other than like, we incorporated, we now have a digital version of it. And so that's a big help for some. And so I think that's really helpful. So just getting it as varied as possible right now is the best we can do. But I haven't heard, anything else. I mean, the other thing is just like making sure that every social service agency that's working with us has these, that they know that this needs to be filled out. Anyone at the food shelf, and I mean, I know folks like within Heartland may be going to Haven and things like that and outside of town for the food shelf. And so they are really, those places are also really good places to make sure that, they have those resources. And they do, as far as I know. But yeah, I mean, I'm changed district, but the problem's still the same up north.
And Scott's absolutely right. It is really hard. And especially when kids need it, how do you approach the parents? And it's very,
yeah,
it's just really
true.
Complicated. And we try because we know they need it and we need the funding as well, but it doesn't feel good. So hopefully somebody comes up with a different way. Yeah.
Scott, I'm going to miss that insight.
Yeah.
Colleen, you're up.
I'll continue with whatever insight I can give. Don't worry. I still get a few end roads.
So you have to channel your inner Scott in the next meetings.
Send me notes ahead of time, Scott.
Colleen, you're on mute, I think. Yeah. I think she's done. I think she said she's all set.
Oh, you're all set? Okay, we answered it. Okay,
all right. Let me finish my presentation. I don't know. Whoops, hold on. Were there any other questions about the browser can't share your screen? That's weird. What did I do?
Should be able to.
Yeah, I should.
I have it up on my screen. Do you want me to see if I can pull it up?
That's so weird. Yeah, it won't let me. I'm getting a message.
That's weird.
Pull it up.
Yeah, I'm almost done, but
yeah. So can you?
Yeah. Thanks, Nikki.
Yep. I think I'm.
All right, book study. I just added this. I forgot, Nikki. You'd asked about what we were going to kind of go for, how we were going to move this forward, and I wanted to share that we did. The administrative team we had an actual full day mini retreat on one of the half days, and Angie and Brittany and Patty and David really presented a model for professional development for next year that our staff has really been asking for, which is more, gives them more voice and choice and ownership, which is what we're asking them to do for our children. So it's not all fleshed out, and we need teachers and staff to be on a committee to really talk about it and how we're going to go about doing it. But one of the ideas was related to our work around trauma and really identifying our top goals in our school. And that's based on our strategic plan work and how we're going to provide staff with professional development around those areas and give them some voice and choice in that. So one of the ideas for this book, Nikki, was if staff are required to do so many hours to meet this goal, learning around this particular goal, this book would be an amazing book study for a group to do. So we haven't forgotten about it. We're trying to just figure out a way without putting it on staff, but allowing them to choose if that's what they want to do. So that's a discussion we're in the middle of at this point.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
So, guys, I just got word school budget passed by a lot.
Oh, yay. Oh, that's awesome.
Sarah, you didn't need to raise your hand.
Check that out.
I was like, I was gonna like make a and hold it up or something.
That's awesome.
That's great.
So, congrats, everybody.
We can sleep tonight. Yay.
That's awesome. You can, Christine, you have work to do. You have to hire a third grade teacher.
I know.
You're sleeping.
I've got the ad ready. I sent it to Lori today. I said, if it passes, can you post tomorrow? And she said, yes, just let me know. So we're ready. So I'll keep you posted on that and the differentiated PD model, because we're really excited about it. And it'll be a lot of work. We're looking at, we've done some webinars on some systems that will help the process. I think, what was it, Frontline, David, that we were looking at
Mm-hmm.
to house our
Yeah.
PD?
And I think yeah. I think that's pretty much been decided.
Yeah. So it'll be used for, it'll take the place of ReadySub, which is what we use for subbing. It'll be our digital time card system. So it's all in one, which is going to be nice. We'll roll it out really slowly, so people aren't overwhelmed.
And Christine, if you
yeah.
ever want me to come in and do a short presentation,
You
once
will.
the school is open more, I'm happy to come over.
Okay, that would be great.
You want
Okay,
next slide?
yeah, next slide. I just want to give you a heads up. We have a space issue at Heartland. I don't know if you know that, but space is really hot commodity, and we're trying to think outside the box. And next year we will have an additional program in our school for around kindergarten, early ed ages of. It'll be a program for some autistic children that are going to be joining us, and so we need a space for them. We also have as you know, 2 of every grade in the elementary realm next year. So we've got to find a classroom for an additional grade level. So we've got things to figure out. But one thought was, can we move CrossFit to Floral Hall? And so Jim and Joe came over, and we went out to Floral Hall. We brought Lacey and Chad, our CrossFit experts, and we looked at the space, and we think it might work. There is heat in there, and there's electricity. It will need some cleaning and some work, and probably some mats on the floor, and it'll just need some cosmetic work. And potentially, it could be a space that would work, which we're excited about. We're just waiting on the gym has to have clearance from the insurance company that it is structurally sound. So we should know by the end of the week. And so if it is structurally sound, we will likely be moving CrossFit to Floral Hall over the summer so that we can have another classroom open next year. So I just wanted to let you know that we're thinking about that.
That's great, because we've been thinking about what to do with it for a long time, and then it seems like it just all of a sudden made sense.
Yeah, if it works, it'll be great. So, so I'll keep you posted as we move forward with that. The next slide is super exciting. I think, I don't know that everybody knows this, but Jennifer Waite, and she did most of the work. I'll give her the credit. She works for National Parks and Rec Trails, I believe it's called, and applied for a grant, and we got it. So we have $171,768 to build the ADA accessible trail into the 17-acre woods, which is really, really, really exciting. So we'll figure out.
Great.
It really is great. There'll be some work that goes along with the grant management and whatnot, but Jennifer's going to help. So that will hopefully start this summer. So we're very, very excited.
That's exciting.
I looked at the awards too, and this is like the second or third highest grant award. So it's really a big deal that we got this.
A lot of money.
Really cool.
Yeah, it is. And we have the site plan. We had written a grant a few years ago for the site plan, and that is the amount listed. We're thinking, because of the cost of materials is higher now, we might need to fundraise a little bit more money, but we'll have a bulk of it. So very exciting. And then the last slide, I think, is just, we did set graduation dates at our meeting this week. And so Heartland will graduate our eighth grade class on June 15th at 4 o'clock. We're hoping to be outside again. We really enjoyed being outside last year. So weather permitting, that's what we'll do. So, any questions?
That went well last year, the outside graduation.
What was the
Really.
date again? I didn't get it for the minutes.
June 15th.
4 p.m.
Yeah.
I'm adding it to my calendar right now.
Oh, good.
Let's take a moment.
I want to
Let's,
do that too.
Mhm.
let's all take a minute.
Yeah.
Good. Well done.
Yes. The one thing that I thought the graduation last year was amazing, except for the random wind gust.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
It got challenging in a moment.
Mhm.
But the one thing that we could improve is speaker.
Yeah.
Do we have anything in the SU, or do we have something like, to me, I don't know how much it would cost to get something or rent something. Maybe it's worth looking at renting something.
Might be worth it.
Yeah. I agree.
Especially if all the schools use it, or like, could we borrow from, if Windsor has something, I don't know. But that, I really feel like we should make an improvement on that, because it was really difficult to hear.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's talk to Jim, Christine, because I know Windsor always goes outside, and it's a great system, but I think they contract that system out, and so we could get that contact, get a price, and see if they'd be willing.
Yep. I'll put it on my list.
That's worth it.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Kids deserve it.
Mhm. All right. That concludes my report.
So David, you're up.
Yeah, and I'll be pretty quick, because as usual, I like to go after Christine, because she basically covers everything in her report. So that's always good. But we'll just, can everybody see that pretty much?
Yep. And I just want to say, David, that I'm really impressed with the new slide decks that you've been presenting in the last couple of months.
With the new what?
With the slide decks that you've been presenting, like, it's just,
Yeah.
you formalized your presentation.
I'm trying to
And
formalize
that maybe
that.
Christine's doing, but
That's right. It's Christine's influence. So
I like it. So I just wanted to let you know that.
it's proof you can teach an old dog new tricks, right? But that's good. No, I've just got a few things. We talked about this. Masking protocols will remain on the table for the SU meeting on the 21st. We're collecting data now: student surveys, staff surveys, and parent surveys, looking at positivity rates, vaccination rates. I just did a little survey of surrounding districts to see what our surrounding partners are doing in the other districts. They're all pretty much right where we are. I sent a little bit of that data to the board chairs today, but it'll all be collected and presented on the 21st. And what I've tried to explain to people, and believe me, I think because I probably send out those email blasts every Friday, I've very proudly wear the badge of honor that I have become the face of, I think, the COVID, protocols and crisis. And so everybody thinks that I just have the ultimate power to just say tomorrow, kids don't need to be in masks. So I've had to really explain how that works and what the law says, VSA 16-834, that the school boards have the duty of care responsibility. And the SU board did authorize the day-to-day operations of the COVID protocols for me, but they specifically followed the advice of the state on the mask mandate, and used the 80% benchmark, and also on the mandatory staff vaccines. And I can't go back on either one of them without, not that I think we should right this second, but it's got to be an SU board decision. So luckily we've got good board members. We all pretty much stay on the same side. Heartland certainly has been really good about it. West Winds has been good about it. Wethersfield, a little bit of kicking, but not bad. Windsor, surprisingly, is the community that's really torn, right to the point of campaigning for a write-in candidate tonight that's anti-mask. So we'll see what happens, and we'll keep you all posted. But you know what? The nice thing about a supervisory union are there are 12 board members representing 4 different towns and 3 different districts. So it's very hard to change the direction of an SU based on, one person's voice or one district's voice or one board candidate's voice. So we'll just stay positive and keep moving ahead. As Christine said, case counts are low, but there's still no new guidance other than the 80% benchmark from the Agency of Education. Christine mentioned too, we're slowly relieving some of the restrictions, cafeteria, performances, cross-pod work. Matter of fact, Christine and Angela will be proud that I did work today on this phased approach to how we would back away from some of the restrictions, not just masking, but others like this. And I hope to have that ready for the SU board on the 21st as well, if not certainly on the 28th. And that's the step down plan that Christine talked about. And I want the administrative team and our COVID task force to approve it before I go public with that. Just for giggles, I don't know if this is going to work. I'm going to try it. Can everybody see that?
Back on the masking thing, my only concern, and I know I've told you this before, but I'm going to say it publicly, is that the AOE is now more restrictive. The AOE guidance is more restrictive than the CDC.
That's correct.
So I'm concerned that I think that they're probably going to do something quickly, and March
I hope so.
is going to be way out in the distance. And so we'll see what happens.
No, I hope so, because I think that's the divide right now. The divide is between the governor's office, the CDC, and the VDH and the AOE. I mean, and they've got to work that out, because it puts all of us out here in the field in the soup, and that's not literally, that's not good. But I agree with you, Nikki, completely. Can everybody see these vaccination rates?
Yeah, and then Beth has her hand raised.
Yeah, I'll just say the district I'm working for, they're considering dropping it on Monday.
Yeah. And here's the problem with that.
And I honestly don't know how I feel about that. I'm very
well. No, I know. And again, remember that school is located in New Hampshire. And what's that?
We follow Vermont rules.
You do well.
Yeah.
Well, when I reached out to Barrett said the governor has mandated that schools can no longer have mask mandates, so Rivendell has to go without a mask.
The high school.
The high school,
maybe.
exactly. Yeah.
But
you think all the elementary schools are going to go too?
That's. I mean, he just put out they just did a SU wide announcement. So. Okay.
Yeah, because at least in his communication to me, he said it would be just Rivendell, just the middle school and high school. But
yeah, the note that went out, it was just that they were considering it, and so it was definitely didn't want to get people's hopes up or nervousness up.
No,
it was very well worded in that way.
And Barrett is very thorough.
Yep.
I'm sure he'll do it. He'll do it right, and he'll do it carefully.
I guess the side question to this is just more around what are the considerations with like the early ed program, because they're part of our district or supervisory union, and it's like they're for, like, they can't be vaccinated. So
that's exactly right.
How does that, like, are we dealing with that as a total separate thing, or are they just all going to be glommed in with the supervisory decision?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, they would certainly be, they're certainly rolled into the Windsor decision. They're not figured into the vaccination rate because, like you said, they're not even eligible, right? But yeah, I think that's part of the problem in Woodstock. It's part of the problem in Springfield, because the early ed programs are in the buildings, and that's crazy. Yeah, but they have to be factored in.
The CDC guidance doesn't put vaccine status, but they just say if you're in moderate or if you're in yellow or green, you don't need a mask. So we'll have to see how AOE and Vermont interprets that.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and you can see that, by building, I mean, Albert Bridge is probably the only one that's over 80%, but that's because there are more adults than kids in that building. So it skews the data, but it is what it is, and we'll just deal with it on the 21st. Any other questions about that?
Sarah?
just I watched the SU board meeting, which was really helpful to get a sense of those parents
Good.
who spoke, because I've heard a couple of comments in Heartland from parents, I think from the same people that you all heard from, but I have not. That was a little bit of a wake up call watching that meeting. But I think just as a principle, it's really, really important that we don't communicate this as, either we're dropping the mask mandate or we're not. This always needs to be responsive to the conditions on the ground. And so it's not that we're dropping the mask mandate. It's not that we're, taking off the masks. It's that we will likely, through this, endemic era of this, be going back and forth, and there may be times when we're going to have to put them back on. And so it's just the communication that I've heard around this is really troubling, because I think a lot of the parents just have this idea that somebody's going to sign something and it's no more masks forever.
Yeah, we're done. Yeah, we're done.
Right.
Yeah, I know.
Meanwhile, there's this new variant coming down the pike, and it has to be responsive to the actual conditions on the ground. And I'm all in favor of getting rid of them when it's safe to do that, but people really need to understand that they may be back, and that's okay.
Well, if you remember, Sarah, to that point, we that's part of what we went through last spring, right into graduation. I mean, we're just all getting excited about being back without masks, and we took all the furniture out of those, and then all of a sudden by August we were slammed with the new variant, and it was just all with with an increase certainly in case count. So I get nervous about these ebbs and flows and dips and valleys. It's a very, and it's not a fun time to be in the school business or in the school administration business. It's just, who of us signed up to be immunologists and monitoring COVID predictions? I mean, I don't want to be the downer. I'm usually a glass half full guy, but this has been really, really depressing in the last couple of weeks, even more so, because, all of a sudden you've got one or two of these communities that are really divided, and that's sad because we haven't been there in a long time.
I just think with our communication, to really emphasize that it's not a dropping of the mask mandate that we're talking about. It's a, ebb and flow may be a good way to describe it. We may be able to come up with some other language that just really sets expectations for the community.
I agree.
Where they need.
I agree. And I plan on sending something out. I waited till after today because of the voting, but I'll probably do a little early email blast with sort of trying to couch something like that, Sarah, that, first of all, reviewing again where we are and where we get our guidance and why we follow that. What gives the SU board, because I've gotten a lot of those questions. Who gives the board that authority? Well, okay, yeah. So I have to quote the law, and it's like, yeah. So I mean, I'm going to try to summarize again and just tell people, just be patient. It's not black and white. It just isn't.
Scott?
Yeah, I'm really glad that Sarah went first and really helped me think about what I wanted to say. And so David, and board, I've been bothered by this duty of care, if that's the name of the law that David's been speaking about.
Yeah.
I don't understand why an issue like this, which Sarah so articulately illustrated needs to be nimble. The school needs to be nimble going forward. And so why is the board involved? And I can't make that, I can't explain that to myself. I can't understand why this is not just in the realm of school leaders, and why the board would be in this kind of a decision process. But if it has to be, so I'm curious, number one, with the question What is that law, David? Where is it in Title 16? Can I find
Yeah, it is it's in Title 16, 834.
Okay.
And it basically, it just says each school district and its employees owes its student a duty of ordinary care to prevent students from being exposed to unreasonable risks from which is foreseeable and that injury is likely to occur. Now, the board could, not that I'm asking for this, believe me, grant that authority to me, but right now they've been holding on to that, at least with vaccinations and with masking, they've been holding on to that.
I just don't understand why you say that. Where is the reference in our school district's minutes that?
Yeah, you look at the August 17th, I think it's 17th or 18th minutes, and they all, believe me, I've done the research on this, and it was right around the time we voted the vaccine mandate in. Also, right around the time we looked at what reauthorizing me to handle the day-to-day issues, but also reinforcing the 80% benchmark for masking, and so the mandatory vaccine on staff and the 80% benchmark support was clearly at the board level under this duty of care. It's complicated, but that's what it is, and I think
so maybe the if you need a motion there on the 21st at that SU special meeting, maybe that could read perhaps in a way that was, going forward, you and the admin team would have the authority to toggle back and forth between.
Yeah, well, I think given what Sarah just said, there might need to be some of that flexibility, but and again, I have broad shoulders, maybe too broad sometimes, but I mean, it does put a lot of responsibility again on the administrative team, and believe me, we've made a lot of day-to-day decisions about, cafeterias and lunches and outdoor recesses and performance. And so we've done a lot of that. Now, whether or not the administrative team or me, whether or not we would want that responsibility, I don't know. But I think your point's a good point, Sarah. How do you swing from day to day, week to week, month to month? I mean, that's a very good point, and maybe something we got to think about on the 21st. Any other thoughts on that?
I still don't think we're going to make it till the 21st.
Hey, have confidence. I mean, I didn't know that we were going to make it to today, but I'll tell you, the parents, even the ones who have been outspoken, I mean, I think they, and I've answered every single email I get, and I basically quote the statute and I talk about why we have the authority, and I try to do it gently. And so far, people seem to be holding on at least till the 21st. So we'll see. I just got a text too that the Wethersfield budget passed handily. So that's good to know. That's 2 out of 3, right?
That's awesome. That's the one
good.
that's usually a nail biter.
I know, right to the end. Congrats. All right. So anybody else, or we just keep going? Let's go here and see what else. Maybe I'm not going to keep going here. Let me go back here. I am frozen solid. Oh, there we go. Yeah, we talked about that already. The equity audit approval. I think this is good news. The supervisory union approved the equity audit RFP. I think this is going to be critical to moving forward with our equity work. So I'm just waiting to see what the outcome of the Springfield elections are today, because that's going to determine whether or not Zach McLaughlin, the superintendent on this, thinks we can partner. We think if we do 2 districts or 2 SUs in, or a district and an SU, we might attract, at a more efficient or a better price, somebody who can do this kind of work. But essentially, we'll be looking at things like policies, procedures, hiring practices, curriculum, and from an equity perspective. And the people that do this kind of work, they're good at it. They say they can do most of it remotely without a lot of encroachment on the district. They may do one visit, but that's not critical.
When were you hoping to get this done?
Well, that's a good point, because the equity audit timeline, or in the RFP, it says that we would not start this work until the next school year, because it's just, as you all know, there's a lot on everybody's plate, and we want to clear the decks, get everybody graduated that needs to graduate, and everybody resting, and then we'd start this work. But the RFP, we hope to go out as soon as April 1st, if not sooner. And that'll give us a good baseline. That's the hope, right? Because what we don't want to do, in my mind, and I'm an equity advocate for sure, but I don't want to solve problems that we don't have. Let's go after the right issues. And it's good to do that kind of a needs assessment first, I think. I'll keep you posted on that. To that end, too, you may all forget this, but I told the SU, I don't know if I told the SU board yet, but I think I did, that that national equity cohort that I was nominated for and have become a part of, we got derailed for a couple of years. I think we all know why. I took one trip down to New Orleans as part of this cohort. It was an incredible experience. I brought a lot back to our district and our SU, and there is going to be another week-long cohort activity in end of March, and so I have to go to. They pay all expenses paid. I go to San Diego, California. I really feel bad that I have to do that, but I'm going to go, and I'll certainly keep you posted on what I get. And the plan is to certainly, we have 2 or 3 people, the most senior person, Angie Ledoux, with a superintendent's license. So I think during that time, we'll ask her to step up. She very willingly has agreed to do that. Middle level work continues. We've made some big decisions. I'll go over this in a little more detail at the issue board. I won't tonight, but we did come up with some common practices that we want to see employed around the SU. There are probably 30 people on this task force. They're all middle school teachers throughout the SU. And to get folks like that, Michael Butts is one of them. He's one of the leaders, actually, to agree on 6 or 7 common themes, non-negotiables, if you will, was good work. And one of them was that middle schools would be grades 6 through 8, which is going to be a little different for some of our schools, not so much for Heartland. I don't know, at some point Christine will explain the ramifications for Heartland, but it won't be that we'll be mixing 6th graders just multi-age at random with 7th and 8th graders, but it will mean that we'll be doing more activities together as a middle school. And so it'll be sort of like still a self-contained grade at grade 6, but they'll slowly, as the year develops, start to do more activities and projects with the middle school. And we'll talk more about that when we have a little bit more time. March 11th in-service is coming up. That's going to be a wellness in-service and self-directed. We're really trying to be sensitive to staff, but Craig's going to put on a breakfast. I think you might have already talked about this, Christine, and then Angie and Brittany and the administrative team have a great day planned for everybody. And did you mention this, Christine, in your report, the free lunch Wednesdays?
I did not. I saved it for you, David.
Thank you. But that was, we're just trying to find ways that are, somewhat cost neutral, not completely, that we could invest in our staff. So starting this Wednesday, tomorrow, every staff member will be able to eat free. And we don't know how many that's going to be. Craig's going to keep an eye on it. We don't think it's going to be tons of people, but we just thought it was a nice benefit for the work our teachers have done. Budget votes today, and we're 2 for 3, right? So that's good news. Congratulations to Heartland and Wethersfield. I'm sure we'll hear about Windsor here in just a few minutes. So if there are any questions, certainly I can take them, but let me just see if I have anything from, nope, nothing from Windsor yet. So It's always a big night for everybody.
Okay, so now we're on to items for discussion. So I think Christine kind of already covered this, but we have feedback and ideas for the book report that I gave last month on Nowhere to Hide. And the one thing, the one comment that I would have is, I know that we tried to, and I don't remember where it came out, with the support staff contract. I know we tried to get a day of training in, and I feel like this is kind of where it, I think this is a huge piece of the training that needs to go in. And I don't know, did we get that day of training in? And
I think we did, David. Didn't we negotiate more days for support staff in the
Yes, we did.
Yeah,
We did. I think we were able to, I think we added 3 days, quite frankly. Yeah. So that was, yeah. Yeah. And we'll have to, I keep forgetting to do this, but Scott, and it was part of the presentation too, but I figured it was redundant because we had talked about this, but the support staff contract has been ratified by the association. I keep forgetting that we're supposed to ratify it too as boards, but we can do that at the next meeting. We don't have to do that tonight. It really went quickly. Not a lot of changes, just a good healthy salary increase for those who are really our lowest paid workers, and we came up with a 403B contribution for them too. We thought that was fair. If teachers had it, they should have it. And then the extra in-service days. That was about it, quite frankly. And no, the other big one was the cafeteria workers now will all operate under one collective bargaining unit at the SU. So that means, that if Craig needed to move somebody over to Windsor or vice versa, it puts it all there. And we tried to get the maintenance staff too, but we couldn't do that. So if somebody wanted to vote to ratify, we certainly could tonight, but we don't have to do that tonight.
I feel like that's something that probably should be on the agenda.
Yeah, we'll put it on the agenda for the, one of you remind Lori to get it onto that March agenda.
So I'll put it under setting the next agenda vote.
Thank you. Good.
Support.
And we're going to miss Scott on the negotiating team too.
Yeah, we're going to have some discussions here, team.
Yeah. So Nikki, the answer to your question is yes, we did get the days, and I think the beginning of the book study on the administrative team's part, and some of us, I don't know if all of us, have read the book, and I think that the next step then is to really break that into its moving parts, and then especially with those who work closest with the kids, get those finer points, including a lot of what you put in your PowerPoint. I mean, I think you've done a lot of the work for us, so thank you, and we'll figure out a way to get the time to do that.
I feel like there's been a lot of the teachers have done the trauma-informed work, but it hasn't percolated down, and that's where I think our kids are really hitting roadblocks sometimes. So, okay. Anything else on that topic? Nope. Okay. So we have building committee next steps. Sarah, are you going to lead up that discussion?
Sure. So, we had met a couple of times and had some initial discussions about sort of priorities for if there was money, what we would spend it on in the building. I think is sort of a fair way to describe what our conversations were. And then, I hope it wasn't me dropping the ball. It felt like we got hit with a lot of stuff there all at once, and it just seemed like it made sense to kind of give it a rest. I think also we, as we started to talk about communicating to our community that there were these needs and that maybe there might be a bond at some point in the future, we got a little bit of pushback, and so it just seemed like a good moment to kind of let things rest. And the administrators had a lot on their plates, and we all did. So so yeah, so this is probably a good moment to just kind of say, what's the way forward. One thing that I thought might be useful is if, I'm happy to write something up and then the committee can take a look at it, but just to kind of produce a document that would contain what we talked about, so that, for future boards, that there's just a kind of a record. We don't have a building plan, I think, on the books right now, right? We had one from, it's got to be 10 years old at this point, older, maybe 15, we thought. So that might be, just to get a document produced, that might be useful. But I'm anxious to hear what Christine, certainly what you think, and Nikki and the other board members. I'm happy to move forward however we think is useful.
I think that would be helpful, Sarah, just to get it on the books. I don't know that, I think my recollection is very similar to yours. And it also felt like it might be a hard sell with our declining enrollment.
Right.
To really, timing is everything. So I would say with the project in the 17-acre woods, I know that's going to occupy some of my time, and might be the next step before a bigger building project. I don't.
Yep.
Just kind of brainstorming out loud. But I do know there'll be some oversight of the work and the grant. And Jennifer and I have a meeting scheduled already in the next couple of weeks to kind of start talking about what that's going to look like. So. I don't know what your thoughts are. Nikki, you were on that committee, and Lindsay was on that committee, I think, as well.
You guys always know that I have a lot of thoughts. But I think that we still, so I completely agree with the declining enrollment, and that selling building upgrades is challenging. But we do have an old building
We do.
that hasn't seen upgrades and is, in some cases, the Kappa Gymatorium is definitely failing us. And COVID saved the Kappa Gymatorium from the debate, but as soon as we go back to normal, we're going to start complaining about that again. So I do kind of see that as one of our, something that is going to have to be addressed eventually. I also, COVID also put the kibosh on building safety in some ways, because all the doors are open now. But I suspect that long term that's going to come back as well, and just our bizarre front entrance and our sight lines and access through the building. So I think that all those things need to stay on our radar.
Yeah.
But so I completely agree that the woods is our next priority. But one that I would like to see is some way that we could maybe make an outdoor eating space, like some cost-effective way that we could ease a little bit of the Kappa Gymatorium on nice days, and get the kids outside. I think
I would agree. We talked about that too, building almost like a patio outside with some tables, and so I put that on my list as well.
I feel like that's like, I don't want to say it's simple because it's not simple.
No, but it might not be too hard.
It's not the most, it's not going to cost us the most out of everything that we talked about. It relieves a little bit of our issues, and it improves life for everybody. I mean, a patio outside would be spectacular when I was in school. Like, I just felt like I got trapped in the building and never see the outdoors.
I did talk to Craig, just so you know, about we are getting a new service line now. I can say that, right?
You can.
Yeah, whether or not it made sense to think about the flow, because one of our issues is that long line in. There's only one way in and one way out. So if it isn't that expensive to put a central door and have two lines coming in, hot, cold, and coming out. So Jim's going to look into that. I don't know. It might be expensive, and it's not going to happen. But if it's something that we can inexpensively do, it would make sense to do it prior to buying the service line so that we can
Set it up right.
Yeah, set it up right.
Set it
Yeah.
up right, yeah. And that's exactly how I think Weathersfield and Windsor are both laid out that way. But I think it would be a good idea to at least look at. I don't think it's going to be as expensive as you think, Christine. And one of the things I thought, not to get too cocky on budget night, but if we're carrying a good surplus and that really is an important project, that's something you could do in June and it's done, and you kind of move forward with it. But I agree.
The
Totally a board decision.
The other thing that I think is just something I've been thinking a lot about on the library board. We were due to do a strategic plan, and we sort of talked about the fact that it's really hard at this moment in time to plan ahead because we just don't know what the lessons of the pandemic will be. We don't know how things will change. And I think a lot of those, we had some very exciting conversations about the building and about, changing the way we use space. But it's funny looking at it now, it just, the future feels a little murky, and it's a little bit hard to kind of say, let's build a new wing or let's do this, because I feel like we just don't know. And so it seems like a good moment to kind of, maybe create a document with what we have discussed, get some of these things in it. And, as Nikki says, make sure that we include in that document that security may once again be a big issue, and we need to be ready to address that. And then maybe wait a little bit and kind of see how things go in the next year.
I like that. And you might as well add the Floral Hall update.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And David and I talked about that too. If there is excess money in the budget, I mean, we didn't put any money in the budget for next year for Floral Hall, and it's not going to be a major renovation, but it is going to be like clean it out, paint the walls.
Yeah.
There's a section in there where there's a makeshift wall where it was divided that will need to come down. So it'll be, it'll cost something.
I think that's what Jim and his crew can do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that would be good. This heat, I'm sorry, Scott. I didn't know if there's heat and electricity out there. You said that, right, Christine?
There is. Yeah. We were
Okay.
pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
Like, oh, there's heat out here. Plus it's CrossFit. So it doesn't need to be hot, it needs to be cool because the kids are working out. So
it would have made a nice sugar shack too, Scott, but I couldn't talk her into that. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say that again. Sarah reminded me of something that's been on my mind. I'm fascinated by the discussion, perhaps globally, about what are we going back to, and do we want to just quote go back to where we used to be 2 years ago? And I think it's pretty clear that people don't want to, for all kinds of equity reasons and all kinds of reasons. And so maybe it's not clear, but drilling down on that concept in use of the cafegimatorium, it's interesting to me that somehow it was made to work. I wish I knew more about that right now. Is it eating in the classrooms that has made that, taken the pressure off that space? Yeah. So, I mean, that's a problem for the maintenance department, I guess, and the cadence of the rest of the day. But, anyways, it has proven that there's more than one way to skin a cat. So, I also think that the not forgetting the security concerns is, and the other thing that hasn't been mentioned yet is we keep as a board, and then you get was it with Jeff Marino, we did have a plan. I'm not sure
Yeah, yeah.
Christine, if it was a whole building plan or not, but there's some document there. It's not 10 or 15 years old yet. But, you know, the question seemed to come back again to, oh, the building is not completely sprinkled, and if we do any construction, we'll have to. And I just think that's like, what's the term? A nothing burger. I would be all for like that plumbing project. You know, it would be expensive, but I think the building is worth protecting against fire, if you want to put it that way. For gosh sakes.
I'll speak to that as somebody whose elementary school burned down. It's sad. It's sad.
I'll just say, put a plug in for, there's a kind of a movement called Smarter Lunchrooms. And so however we can support Craig and his staff and any of the maintenance staff, like before you start blowing holes through walls or anything like that, like just really thinking about how the main mission of this is to get as many children fed a healthy, nutritious meal as possible. So how are these renovations just constantly doing that? And what are the small tweaks we can make, even if we can't blow that hole through the wall if we need to? What are those other small things? So just like, kind of like what you were saying, Scott, don't let these huge things, you know, be in our way for making some really smart decisions around that. So there's a lot of professional development around smarter lunchrooms and what you can do. Yeah,
that's true. And I know Craig's working on that in Windsor too. I mean, for a very small cost, I think the total was like 20,000 to, you know, murals on walls and different kinds of tables and chairs. I mean, just to make it, you know, less institutional. So I think Beth's right. We need to be smart.
And thinking about it as like you're going to a restaurant and you're picking out food. Like, you know, you're not. Right. This isn't jail. Like the kids have choices.
Amen.
Making sure it feels that way.
Good point.
And that they're being treated well as customers. And also the choices that are the healthy choices are the easiest choices to make.
That's a good point.
I also think it might be worth at some point surveying kids, and you know, it creates so many problems with the teachers and the classrooms getting breaks, but kids feel very positively about eating in their classrooms or outside. And I think that is something that we need. And I know it doesn't fit in necessarily with the, you know, the food program in certain ways, but socially, emotionally, you know, when I hear kids talking about it, that's one of the things that they've loved about the last 2 years. And I think especially for kids who, you know, who have some social awkwardness and who, you know, it's a relief not to have to walk into a cafeteria, and they're dreading going back to that. So I want to make that part. I know it's tough.
No, I think Sarah, I think you're absolutely right. I think there's some great points in that. And I think especially if we stay with universal meals, I think there's some research to do around this, but there's ways to actually serve meals as a family style. Yep. And so you're actually sitting down as a classroom and eating a meal together instead of, and that was the problem. Like, yes, it was nice for everyone eating their lunches in the classroom, but the majority of students were sitting there and watching a video and asked to stay, you know, facing forward, not interacting and not having those kinds of, because they couldn't. So now is the time to start thinking about, as we can restrict these things, but if we're staying in the classroom, how can we support teachers and aides to really start having this as a discussion? Hey, did you try this? Did you like that? What does this look like? Like just starting to have more of a family kind of supportive feel around food. I think would be really amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to keep us moving. Sarah, do you feel like, are you all set with the building committee?
Yeah, so I think I'll draft something that I can share with you, and we can kind of go from there. But I think that makes sense to kind of produce something and then pause a little bit and see how things go.
It's a good plan.
So our next is items for action, and I don't believe we have any today. Usually where we we're here to vote on things in case we didn't. already. So setting the next agenda, you need the principal's report and the superintendent's report,
And ratify the contract.
and ratify the contract. So we're gonna need a special session. Everybody pull out the calendars. We're gonna need a special session before the SU meeting to put together an SU board. Because we can't do that today because nobody's been elected or sworn in.
Yeah, I wondered about that.
Yeah, and so we need to reorganize, but we can't wait until our next meeting to reorganize because we have an SU meeting in between. Normally we would meet far enough after town meeting that we would be able to reorganize, but that didn't happen this month. So what do people want to do? It should be a pretty quick meeting.
Yeah. And you said it has to be before the 21st, right?
Yeah, I think we should make it as soon as possible, but David knows my opinion on this.
Yeah.
I just feel like we should have our SU representatives selected as soon as possible.
What about?
Yeah, I agree. The day that's open next week is the 9th.
Okay.
It's going to make a busy week, but, and then we could do any 14th, 15th, or 16th the following week.
I would take the 9th.
Or, I mean, how long are we talking here?
I bet an hour and a half.
Yeah. Well, we've
Or the
reorged.
restructuring meeting, just for us to restructure?
Yeah, you
No,
want to do reorganization, but we probably should,
So we
like the
made
support
something else on the agenda, which we can talk about.
So
Did we
then
set aside time on the 8th? I have it.
You have
No,
time
I
to
think-
start on the 8th?
no, I don't have anything on the 8th.
I could do the 8th. The 9th is dicey.
Okay.
I can do
David,
either.
You have stuff on the 8th?
We could also do the 10th.
Let's see. 10th is good.
We might have to start at 7 on the 10th.
Well, it's going to be, I think it will be
I could do
quick.
8th or
Works better for me.
Because you know what, Christine and I since we gave our March reports, I'm not sure we need to do that again. I think it's reorganizing, ratifying the support staff agreement, and, maybe just, I don't think you'll be ready, Sarah, with your written report on the buildings yet, right? So,
No, that's all for the next meeting.
we'll just keep that later on. I think we can do if we start at 7, we
really
could.
thinking that we could just do the reorganization and push everything else to the April meeting.
That's fine too. That's fine too.
But there may be one other thing that comes up that
Yeah.
we will talk about in a minute. So,
Okay.
okay.
Any
So
of those evenings look fine to me.
which day are we picking? David, you have something on the 8th?
I have the 8th is the Weathersfield School Board meeting. The 7th is the Mount Scottney School Board. And they're both doing their organizational meetings and they've got agenda items.
Right.
But I've got the 9th or 10th, or, you could meet without me. If it's only reorganizing, but I would have to set that meeting up, or Christine would have to set it up and she'd have to own it.
Yeah. Well, how about the 9th? What does the 9th look like?
I think that was tricky for Sarah.
Yeah, that's a little
Okay.
tricky for me too. Chris, this is a Conservation Commission meeting, so the kids would be on their own.
And the 10th was not good for you, Nikki, if we started at 7?
If we start at, yeah, I might be in charge of something.
Do I dare say a Friday night?
What?
Exciting times.
Yeah, I'll wait in the car.
I don't
Oh,
think I can do Friday night.
I can't do that.
That's how wild and crazy my life is.
I can make the 9th work. I think. I have book group that night, but I can skip my book group.
What time is that, Sarah?
How
Can we
about the
work on
10th?
It's like it's 6:30, so it's okay though. I can definitely make that work, or go late or whatever.
So do we want to do that then, the 9th?
The 9th.
The 9th. Yeah,
At 6?
6 sounds good.
6.
You want to do it 6?
Okay.
Yeah, maybe we can finish, Sarah. You can get to your book group.
Yeah.
I'll get to my group.
Yeah.
We
What
could
time
do
is
a
it?
30-minute. How long is it going to take?
We know what we can do. It just depends on whether or not we have something else. Okay, 6
Unless we
o'clock
have something.
on the night. Oh wait, David's gonna send out a thing. I don't need to put it.
I'm going to do it right now. Yep.
Okay, so moving on. So then we need to set our April meeting, which would be the 5th. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yep.
Okay. So for the 9th, the only agenda item right now will be the reorg.
Yeah. And we just have to make sure, I've got a note here, but and the minutes, we'll have the minutes maybe, Beth, for tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, in minutes.
Okay, so reorg and minutes.
Okay, and then for the 5th, well, we're gonna assume we're sticking with the first Tuesday after our reorg.
You'll know that after the reorg.
Right, we'll know after the reorg, but let's tentatively put in the 5th. And that
Are we going to meet at 6 or 6:30?
on the 5th?
Yeah.
I was assuming 6.
We've always done 6.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
Okay. And so for that, we have our normal principals, superintendent. And then the vote to ratify the support staff.
Yeah.
Anything else? Angie looks like she might have something. Angie?
Yeah, I'm wondering if, excuse me, if we might have to do a CIP and school-wide plan update then, Christine?
If we're done.
Yeah, we might have some questions if we, at least it's on the agenda.
Yep. What school-wide plan for sure, CIP potentially, right?
So it's
Potentially.
plan.
Yeah,
It's a Title I school-wide plan that we need to share with you all.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I think.
I think that covers that one. I'm sure there'll be more before then, but and hopefully we'll be in person.
Yeah.
Okay. So I will take a motion to move into executive session to discuss a student matter. Colleen's moving.
I move.
Scott is seconding. Beth, are you all set? Okay. Okay. All those in favor of going into executive session? I don't have to do a roll call on this, right? Say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.